In the first video I posted to Classy Hippo Studios making a slug cat pinata, I used cardboard, aluminum foil, and duct tape to make it, but I had the nagging feeling that there must be a better way. Since then I've tried to improve this approach, but this video details the next major evolution in my pinata making saga: 3D printing. This project started as a 2 months late, near-failed birthday piñata, but ended up inventing a painfully complicated but mass-producible system that might very well end up a Classy Hippo Studios piñata-making side hustle. I started this project intending to imitate a previous piñata where I piñatified that son's artwork. This is the character I chose, which I affectionately called Crazy Uncle Egg. Kudos if you get that reference. After deciding I wanted to try a different method, I started messing around with the 3D pen I got a couple of Christmases ago. I tried freehanding it, then I tried using a bowl as a support and got somewhat closer, but it turns out that the lack of precision and the time it takes to make this was slightly messy and not really doable. I felt like I was onto something though, so when I got a 3D printer, I decided to try something similar with 3D printed parts. I was successful in designing a Crazy Uncle Egg 3D model, but it turns out that cutting that model into 30-degree slices with a precise thickness was much more difficult than a newbie like me was able to manage on Blender. So I decided to bracket that project and try to just make a spherical shape that could be 3D printed as a proof of concept. I reached two conclusions in this process. Firstly, even dumbing things down to a sphere was much more complicated than I thought it would be. It needed to be exactly 30 degrees of a sphere while also being manifold, having tabs to link each part together, and printing with angles that the 3D printer could handle. It turns out that 3D printers cannot just put down filament into empty space and have it stick there. Secondly, and luckily, the number and coolness of potential design options with a simple sphere were much more than I anticipated. I became increasingly excited as I began thinking of options. It became clear that this had potential to be more than a simple proof of concept. Because the 3D printer struggled with the angles, I had to use my 3D pen to add material to the end of the tabs so that when I put clips onto the tabs, they would actually have something to link onto. I was so excited that I made a half of a sphere as soon as I could. I removed the pieces too soon though, and it dried wonky, which was one of the many things that I learned on how to go about this process. It turns out that clipping the top and bottom half together was more complicated than I thought it would be because you can't see where you're actually clipping. It did not come together perfectly all aligned, but it was close enough that it was clearly sphere-shaped. Removing the pieces afterwards, I wasn't sure. I had never really thought, was this going to be difficult? The first one that I removed actually made the top half all pop out. So that was a pleasant surprise. The 3D parts are just a good balance between being stiff enough that they hold their shape, but also being malleable enough to be able to pull them out from being locked in place. It turns out that the filament color is almost exactly the same as the paper drying with flour mix, so it was really hard to see where I had missed. I used some duct tape to design the bomb top, which I covered with more paper and covered up the holes that I had missed. It was a super windy day, so trying to spray paint with super wind was not my favorite thing. It turns out also that it's a tough balance where if you want to have one layer of spray paint, you have to get it pretty thick, but then it runs. I had an idea of attaching electrical wires to the bomb as kind of like an interactive, trying to diffuse the bomb. We didn't really do anything with that. I have ideas on how to make the bomb be like a escape room in a pinata with electronics and have it be way fancier. I had some other ideas after this. I have almost a dozen ideas, honestly, of sphere-shaped pinatas. So I started going on putting together the next batch. It's nice because you can have multiple going at the same time. I forgot to attach something to the bomb, so we had to just shoot at it on the floor. For the next two, I decided to do a couple different prototypes. So one was a hanger that I bent to distribute the load into a sphere around the top. It's pretty hardy from what I've noticed in my previous attempts. So I just needed to get it shaped and then covered from the inside. The other one was a rope that I had defrayed and put across. This was actually my son's idea. And that also spreads the load out pretty well. I wanted to actually sell these pinatas, so I bought a bunch of candy and loaded them up so I could actually seal them. I made sure to take video of how I was filling them up and what candy I was putting in where, so people who bought them would actually believe that they are filled. So the first was a Pokeball, and then the other one is a Magic 8-Ball. I was initially going to print some Pokemon creatures to put on the inside, some painted 3D shape, but I ran out of time. The Magic 8-Ball is actually going to be functional, where I will have fortunes that are on this little indentation with the plastic that you can switch out, and so you can make it look like you're getting a fortune. You can shake it and then pretend like the fortune appeared, even though it's not really functional in the same way. The spray paint was a little rough the first go around, especially with the Pokeball, because I wanted it to be a very vivid, clear red on top of the black, and I needed to go over because it smeared it a little bit. But here they are, finished. I'm quite pleased with the way they turned out. I'll continue to update about all of the ways that this project idea progresses. I feel like I'm going to pursue this as a money-making side hustle.
Will my next birthday be as good as my last one?
Oh, sweet. I want to try it too. Are people going to like and subscribe to my video? Nice.
Am I safe within my own home?